Hello, everybody, and welcome to the K2 podcast. I believe this is a live stream that we got going up here. It's kind of a special occasion. It wasn't something that I was anticipating on us doing, but nonetheless, we are here and we are going to be doing it. So what prompted this, obviously, is everybody's seeing on TV today with what's going on in DC. There's some other stuff that maybe DC is distracting our attention from, but we're definitely going to talk about a lot of this stuff. We got a little bit of a different setup because this was kind of an impromptu.
It was literally 8 o'clock when we messaged each other, and it was like, dude, we got to get on out there and cover some of the stuff that people work 9 to 5 may not have been able to stay up to par on what really occurred, because everything in DC, for instance, happened very swiftly. I remember at noon, I was working on my car today to get that up and running, and I'm having my lunch at around noon, and I finished up about 2:40, and next thing I know, it's saying, U.S. Capitol is under siege, and I'm like, what is going on?
Yeah, no, it was definitely wild. So it's definitely a lot has transpired. So we figured we do an impromptu episode and kind of see what's going on. And kind of cover a little bit of that stuff. So we got, obviously, my co-host here, Jamie. Also, we're going to have a buddy joining in on the call, give us some of his thoughts. He's on the opposite side of the nation, so we kind of see what they're thinking about and kind of get a little bit of what it looks like from their angle.
Right.
And I wonder, East Coast, just below DC.
Well, and that's what I was saying. Like, our governor has issued a state of emergency, and we're not even in the District of Columbia, and we're sending resources up there to assist and stuff like that from here in Virginia. But I wonder what kind of preparations, like you said, on the other side of the country have they really said? How how are the governors addressing some of these topics and things of that nature? So it's kind of interesting to see and hear about what's going on. And it's kind of really what throws us off is we just talked about this last Monday, Tuesday episode where we discussed the protesters arriving in D.C. We covered that briefly about how they were coming out there to protest and so forth. And next thing we know, not only did they arrive, but they arrived with a bang, apparently.
Yeah, I don't know if a bang is the right terminology, because in all reality, I don't even say as much as it pains me, but to see our country in this kind of shape and what they're doing, I don't care if you're Republican, Democrat, whatever affiliation you have.
Yeah.
I don't know if disgusted is the word, but I'm pretty like.
You're irate.
I don't know. I almost would want to say I'm hurt in some aspects.
Well, I mean, you should be. Everybody should have such pride and where they come from. And for instance, your country is the backbone. It's your home. And when you see it with such divide and such struggle, it can do some damage to you and make you feel some type of way.
Yeah. Well, I think what we can do is we have a little bit of the what's going on over in Congress. So I think we can get that up on the TV back there. Yeah. So we'll just kind of let that play. Do we have any audio on that?
Yeah, we do.
First thing you'll see.
There we go. Well, let's hear a little bit about what's going on.
Is count me out. Enough is enough. I've tried to be helpful. But when the Wisconsin Supreme Court ruled 4-3 that they didn't violate the Constitution of Wisconsin, I agree with the 3, but I accept the 4. If Al Gore can accept 5-4, he's not president. I can accept Wisconsin 4-3. Pennsylvania, it went to the Second Circuit. So much for all the judges being in Trump's pocket. They said, no, you're wrong. I accept the Pennsylvania Second Circuit that Trump's lawsuit wasn't right. Georgia, they said the Secretary of State took the law in his own hands. He changed the election laws lawfully. A federal judge said, no, I accept the federal judge, even though I don't agree with it. Fraud. They said there's 66,000 people in Georgia under 18 voted. How many people believe that? I asked, give me 10, and I had 1. They said 8,000 felons in prison in Arizona voted. Give me 10, I hadn't gotten 1. Does that say there's problems in every election? I don't buy this. Enough's enough. We got to end it.
So just to kind of go over a little bit of this, I don't want to play too much of this, but
you can't.
We'll check in on them a little bit later and see what's going on. You can pause that if you want, but one of the weird things about this is, like, I have never been one of those guys who have really severely bought into this whole election fraud thing. I know some people are on the fence about it. A lot of people have a lot of different takes, and
Right.
me personally, it stings. But I think you and I had a conversation about this when it first went down, and Biden was kind of announced the winner. I was like,
Yeah.
dude, it's like a Band-Aid. It fucking sucks. But we got to pull it off. Like,
Right. You just take the acceptance.
loss,
right.
You know? And it really it pains me.
It's a hard L.
It's a hard L, exactly. It's a very hard L, and it pains me because it's just one of those things where I'm thinking to myself, like, dang, do I believe that there's some election fraud going on? Certainly. But it's been like that for election after election. Even when Hillary, there was votes for her that were fraudulent.
Right.
Trump won, so we basically chalked it up as, oh, don't worry about it. Our guy won, so it's okay. You know,
Right.
like they just chalked it up. But see, Trump, that's one of the mistakes that he made when he did become president. When he noticed that there was election fraud, even though he won, he should have done something about it then.
Started probing and figuring
he
out.
Should have been like, okay,
right.
there's election, but now that he's lost, now it's a problem.
Right.
And that's not cool, you know. So now it's almost like he's dug his own grave in some sense. So I just don't know that. I just don't know exactly what to say, you know. Like I'm just stumped by it all because it's just one of those things where he's had an opportunity to do something. I don't really buy into the election fraud, and I'm not saying that a fraud didn't happen. I'm just saying, like, it's not, even if I don't believe there was enough to overturn the results of the election. And I know some people may come out, oh, there's some kind of leftist ideology or some leftist idea, you know what I'm saying? But this is not a leftist point, you know. I mean, there's no. Every time, I mean, like, for example, and Republicans are to blame for this a little bit because they baited a lot of us. They baited us because there was that one lady, I'm going to release the Kraken. Where the fuck did the Kraken go? Because I haven't seen the Kraken.
I don't think many people have.
Exactly. And there was all this, hey, well, just wait. We got the evidence. It's coming out.
Right. It's
Nothing
kind of
happened.
like the
Exactly.
State Farm guy. You got to be quicker than that. Woo-hoo, I got $1.
Quicker. I'm fast enough. Got to be quicker than that. So it's like we kept getting baited into thinking, and we're being. It almost felt like I was being trolled, and because I wanted to believe. I don't know. Maybe this is exposing myself a little bit, but I almost did want to believe that maybe there was some sort of fraud or something. I wanted to be like, you know what? Because I was shocked. I really thought there's no way Biden would win this. He's ran for president several other times in the past, never won.
It never came close to amassing this amount of voters. I mean,
won. He's not very popular among leftists and the left wing.
Right,
So
and we
the
talked
only
about
thing I
that
can
briefly.
relate to is that this was a, what do you call it? Almost like a repeat of the 2016 election with Hillary, where people
Right.
just didn't want Hillary, so they were saying that's why a lot of people voted Trump because they just didn't want Hillary.
Right.
It's almost like now it seems like people are going towards, we just didn't want Trump, so we voted Biden.
Right.
That's my explanation of it.
Right.
But then you get hit with a lot of people saying there's no way that Trump or Biden is the most popular man in America, outbeating Biden.
Barack Obama, yeah.
Exactly, beating Barack Obama in votes. Biden has the most votes ever of any
in
presidential
U.S. history that's been documented.
And it's hard to believe. Like, that's hard to believe that this is the guy that we wanted to put up. So is it really an anti-Trump vote? Or is it some kind of, sinister, Reagan and stuff going on? I don't know. I don't know how else to explain it.
Right. Well, what kind of grinds my gears a little bit about it is, Biden has also done a fair share of digging his own grave. He's been on the record. He's been in politics for so long, and he's been on the record, stating various racial judgments on people. I mean, he's just dug his own grave too. But a lot of people have, like you said, I guess it was better than Trump type of scenario. And I mean, I guess people just can't harbor in some of the truth, and some of that is definitely. You can see it in the votes, in a sense. You can see it in the numbers.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just, I guess, I don't want to get too far away. Like I said, I do believe that this is something that's been going on in our country for years, is this whole fraud thing. But since Trump lost, now all of a sudden it's a problem.
Right.
And that's where I kind of have an issue with, I mean, I can go on record.
But if you ever won something, let's just say you and I are in a tournament together and I won. Or no, let's change that. You won.
Okay.
All right, and you're like, man, a lot of people are saying that, there was something at play here, like a cheat here. Are you going to really investigate that for the off chance that this could be overturned outside of your favor now, and then I would be in charge of whatever you lost versus you? Would you probe into it?
I mean, maybe.
Maybe because it's the right thing to do, or maybe because you'd actually consider that, hey, maybe I didn't win
right.
this.
Well, that's the thing, though. That's where it kind of boils down to. That's what they're getting at with Trump. That they're saying, okay, you had an opportunity to do the right thing,
right?
Even though you won, start off on doing the right thing. What's wrong with just saying, oh well, I won?
Well, I mean, was there far more transparency? Why didn't Hillary have so much push? If there was, why didn't she push into the fraud?
What a lot of people say.
And she has far more power than Biden did.
It wasn't enough to overturn an election.
Okay. So it wasn't worth the man hours.
Exactly. So she's like, "Hey, I lost it. I'm not going to get this."
And it was a blow. It was a tough loss. Sure. Like it wasn't a close run. I'm saying it wasn't a close run. It was just bang,
right.
She
didn't want to lose to Trump for sure.
No.
It's just one of those things. I'm not really sure where we go from here. I just know that we can't continue on like this as a country. I mean,
with this divide, no.
I mean, from what I saw, they keep saying a woman was killed, but this was a 16-year-old girl.
Was it?
Yes, she's 16 years old. And
wow.
She's now dead.
And can't even legally vote.
So, Cody, do you have something to input on this?
Hold on.
Sure.
Yeah, let me stop you there. It's not a 16-year-old girl. This was an Air Force actual veteran.
Are you sure? Because I've been hearing
Yes.
conflicting reports on that.
Let me go pull her up really fast. Give me 2 seconds.
That.
I'll
So
get back with you.
And even if you have an article, you can send it to me too, and we'll pull it up.
16-year-old girl struck and killed. Oh, that looks like something that was. So it was you actually. It looks like a 22-year-old was killed by a stray bullet in DC's first homicide. That was 1 day ago. I don't know. Maybe I'm getting it twisted here.
I mean, seems like some conflicting stuff. While we're researching that, we're going to check back in on to the
we'll take a look at that.
See what Congress is going on with.
That. The mob has done something nobody else could do. To get me and Rand to
Interesting
agree.
to know as well
Rand
that
is
the Facebook
right.
censorship and Twitter has
If you're a
both
conservative-
pulled down Donald Trump's accounts
Certainly.
for 24 hours as well.
Yeah, we have seen that, which they allege that if he doesn't remove the tweets, it'll remain locked. So they're waiting for him to remove the tweets as well.
Yeah, well, they're going to scrub it regardless.
Yeah,
they're.
It looks like they're going to completely remove him from Twitter within the coming days. I'm sure as soon as he's out of office, he'll be perma-banned.
Perma-banned.
Like
The
Alex
ban hammer.
Jones, so they're going to do him like Alex Jones.
So, a woman shot and killed at the peaceful protest was Air Force veteran Ashley Babbitt.
Ashley Babbitt. Okay. Good to know.
But it is something like you said, though. That is somebody's daughter.
I feel better that somebody lost their life, but it's not a child.
Yeah, right. Really it's not some 16-year-old out there that is probably being fed an ideology. She's being fed some kind of idea of extremism that, ended her life so soon, if in fact she was, like you said, a child at 16. And, it's still a great loss. We lost a service member regardless, so it's still a great loss. Anybody's life is a great loss, but because nobody should have lost their life today in this demonstration. Unfortunately, it happened. But yeah, I mean, I didn't see it coming,
Yeah.
and I saw on I want to say CBS actually. They showed a clip of her. She was just laid on the ground, and they're just asking her where are you hit, and she's just bleeding from the neck. I mean, it's actually very graphic.
Yeah, I've
and it was we won't show it here on the podcast because it is graphic, and we don't want to be insensitive to her family, but it is extremely graphic, the clip, and I mean, I don't know why necessarily she was hit. I don't know if she pushed towards the guard. Could have been like an accidental fire out of reflex. We don't know. But it is tragic that the demonstration got that far for someone to lose their life.
Yeah, and this is one thing that's really bothering me, and this is where you hear a lot of conflicting reports about what is it called with Antifa infiltrating this event as well.
Right.
So I'm not really sure. I'm sure there's some of that going on.
Right.
But I guess what I'm getting at is with this type of stuff, it makes it hard to consider yourself either a right winger or a conservative and stuff, because I've always considered myself that way, and I feel like the more we go on a little bit, I detach from that. And I'm not speaking that I'm somehow moving to the left, but it's more so independently, like
right.
I'm more so becoming more independent on my thoughts and looking at things from a right is right, wrong is wrong type of thing,
right.
And just my own moral grounding and my own moral standings and stuff like that. Because when you look at events
We
like
need
this,
to.
Go ahead.
We really need to ditch the two-party system. That's the problem. Man.
Yes.
They're creating so much division with this two-party system, and that's that we're being pawns right now, and that's the problem. They want us to fight each other instead of actually knowing what's going on in our country and actually trusting our government.
It's
disagree. Huge, man.
I can't disagree with you on that point, and I mean that's kind of how I see it as well. And I mean, he brings up a very good point. Thanks, Cody, for that, because that's kind of how I've been feeling a lot of this, and it's also. Any thoughts, like there was another party, I'm not sure what it was, but anytime that there's any kind of other political group that comes to try to do like a bring together type of thing, they shut it down. It's censored. It's like it's just totally
get under the road.
Any kind of stuff. Like there was a Twitter account, I want to say it was something under the name Unity Party or something like that, where it's basically, it's kind of cringe name, don't get me wrong.
I mean, that's what you need a PR agent for.
And it was just like, it instantly just got smothered out, it's like...
but why would, obviously we know, I won't say we obviously know why, but we have a good general idea why they would, censor out something like this, but this is something that we should all explore as an American. We should explore new and better ways to come together and bring our country together. Nothing brought us together more than, events that have happened, whether it be, something as drastic as 9/11. America was really strong then. There was people waiting to sign up for the military. They wanted to be there for their country. They wanted to be a part of it. Pearl Harbor, same scenario. It was just, it's just events like that bring America together, a tragedy like that. And, it could be an outcome like this. A tragedy could bring us together, but we should all want to be brought together. We shouldn't have to have, like you said, left or right. So, there should be some middle ground.
Right, exactly. So just to go on a little bit about what I was speaking about this Unity thing.
Right.
So it says Unity 2020 has been banned on Twitter. So it's allegedly a website. So Unity 2020 has been banned on Twitter Thursday night. This was back in August, so it's been some time since this has happened.
Yeah, middle of the year.
Thursday night, articles of Unity supporters began trending globally on Twitter by using the hashtag Just Say No to Donald and Joe. So it was just like, a thing where they're just trying to come together, say, hey, screw them both, the whole two-party system.
Yeah.
Thing. It's about unity, I guess, was their genuine message. But then, the day before, Twitter suspended the Articles of Unity account indefinitely. And what's worse, they have banned users from even sharing the link to articlesofunity.org.
Wow.
So this is what I'm getting at as far as it seems like they're really pressing this whole two-party system, and it's the only way to keep the divide here. And then if anybody tries to take the middle ground, you don't have a backbone.
Right.
You're attacked and ridiculed because you're not saying, hey, I'm far right, fuck that, this was a stolen election, and I just don't feel that way. Am I a Trump supporter? Certainly. But now I could be ridiculed and say, you're not a Trump supporter because you don't believe the election wasn't rigged.
Right.
I just believe the man laws. There's a lot of things that I could be critical of Trump, Now I feel like there's far more that I can be critical of Biden,
Sure.
I mean?
It ain't like it makes it hard on us.
Like the whole bump stock ban, I think Trump pulled out on us. That was an unexpected thing.
Yeah.
A lot of people were pissed off about it.
A lot of people. It was a headliner.
So he went on with that. He really, granted, he had a lot of obstacles, but this wall that got promised never got completed. Yeah, some of it got put up.
Some of it was put up, but no.
There's so many other things that you can point to like that. And there was a lot of times in his speeches, I know I'm one of those people that he's not here to cater to your feelings or none of this stuff. I'm not like, yeah, screw the feelings part. Like, who cares? Right. But at some point, you do have to carry yourself away, give speeches to the people in a manner that is not so divisive. Like, when they act, like, this is one thing that I've been struggling with because for me personally, this is my personal beliefs, but I can also see how somebody else would be upset. Mm-hmm. So, for an example, when the whole Proud Boys thing went down during the debates, and they say, "Well, would you tell the Proud Boys to
stand down and
he
decease
says,
or whatever
yeah,
it is?"
He says, "Well,
cease and
stand
desist."
down." Yeah, but he didn't fully say that. He was just like, "Well, just stand by." You know, he said
Yeah,
along those lines.
right.
Well,
Those are
you know,
Go ahead.
there's a lot more to that because it wasn't just stand down. Now remember, because you had the speaker that was talking to him at the time, and also being at the same time being like, you know, do you disavow white
Right,
supremacy?
him and
do
Biden,
you-
the
you know,
speaker
and
and
he was like, yeah,
Biden were both
absolutely.
pressuring
And
him
then
to
they were
do
both
that.
at the same exactly. That's the thing. And so it created this clip, which is what they were wanting. They wanted
I agree, but as the president, even me, my personal self, he shouldn't have allowed that to happen. He should have said, "I denounce white supremacy" right off the bat.
But he's done it in multiple. He's done it on multiple
He should have just
situations.
He should have just answered it. Now,
We all
again,
know
I'm
Trump
on
for his
the
gas.
what you guys are pointing out, what you kind of saying. I agree with it because I'm like, obviously he denounces white supremacy. There's clips of it in the past.
Yeah.
I don't understand how you could be so dumb to think that he's on board with that.
Right.
I don't see that now. I'll probably get flack just for making that statement. But the point is, I feel like he set it up to give them fuel for this.
But he's done that on multiple scenarios. You know, like he constantly wouldn't just shut up.
Yeah,
You know,
and just do it. So
you kind of like kept adding kindling and just letting it burn.
Yeah.
It's just,
Exactly.
it's
That
just
led to
tough.
his downfall for
yeah,
sure.
it's that, and I'm not, like I said, I'm not here to do a total roast on Donald Trump. He could do that easily himself. You know, it's like, it's just, the whole point is there's plenty of opportunities where he could have stepped up in certain roles.
He could have carried himself in a
just
better mannerism.
A leader, you know, instead of being this like mega troll. You know,
And you know, I have to consider that too, like you say, you know, I'm sitting here thinking, for instance, you know, Donald Trump is a businessman. He's conducted several businesses, like meetings. You know, he knows how to act professionally. He knows how to tread lightly in a business meeting and stuff. You know, when he's in negotiations. So, and he has a support team at his fingertips to help him write his articles, his speeches, or whatever. I mean, like you shouldn't. I'm just saying, like it helps you. Like, hey, man,
I didn't like that he or like, you know.
Well, I like that he had the freedom that he spoke what he wanted to speak. It wasn't written for him, but I'm saying it's not hard for him to say, hey, this is what I wrote. You know, how can I say this better? Or is there a better word for this? You know, it could have been at least looked over type of thing, you know, and revised. It shouldn't have been just
Donald
so rough
Trump's never
draft.
been an eloquent speaker.
No, he's
by
never
any
been an
means.
eloquent speaker, and you know, like I said, I don't really focus on that. I don't really. To me, that's not an important part of what the president should be. I know that's been what we've had for how many years. I mean, especially
consistent.
coming off of Obama, you know, who was polar opposites as far as speeches go.
Oh yeah.
Regardless, I don't really support Obama in any policy. There was bare minimum that I liked about Obama, right? But
I was duped. I voted for him.
At least you're man enough to admit it.
But this is where I think played into it. His ability to deliver a speech and make promises
was great.
Immaculate. It was immaculate.
He did. He had a sort of flow to him. It was just he could work a stage.
Yes.
So I don't mean to interrupt you guys, but I just want to let you guys know that the DNC has just called on the 25th Amendment now to actually remove President Trump. So the GOP may soon announce support. So a lot of stuff is happening, and it's
let's
very
take a look
interesting.
in. Let's see if we can hear what's going on in the Congress and see what's going on.
Now, are you guys aware that Lynn Wood's account was also pulled down too?
Yes.
I heard speculation it was gone, but it was still up last time I checked. Has it been
all
taken
of which
down?
were dismissed. The Arizona Supreme Court, a body where all justices have
But we're not
been appointed by
surprised for them to
Republican
call on the
governors.
25th Amendment. Like you said,
No.
we spoke about earlier, Cody, was that,
Justices
you know, they
found
were
that
already
they had
referring
failed
to Pence
to
as
present
president,
any evidence
not vice
of
president. So
misconduct
we're not surprised
or
that this has
illegal
occurred.
No, well, they've
let
been
alone
addressing Pence
establish
here
any
as
degree of
Mr.
fraud
President all night.
or
Yeah,
significant
but
fraud
and you know what
that would
I wouldn't
undermine
be
the
surprised to
certainty
see this
of the
almost fly by
election result.
unanimous.
After these judicial
And I believe it has to be.
rulings,
I believe
governor
so.
said, I trust our election system.
I don't know if they can go with majority
integrity
vote on
in our
removal of a
election
president.
system.
I'm almost certain it has to be
Linwood's
unanimous.
account
Taxes, Joe
appears
Biden
to
is
still
a
be
certified
up.
winner.
Linwood, yeah, his
So
account is, but he's
No.
banned.
No, he can't post
He can't
anything.
post
Okay.
anything. There's, like I said, they have to scrub everything
His last
now.
post was
Followed the
4
facts
hours
and
ago.
came
Yeah.
to this
That's
They're
actually-
going to
yeah, that's
start
6
actually
o'clock, so yeah.
deleting his tweets eventually.
To my
But the other
college
thing that I want to
dropout,
let you know
I know
too,
we
I wrote it down
may
on your
disagree on who
comment
we want as
section.
president.
Go check out that guy.
What
His
we
name is
personally
at
want is
Code
not
Monkey
what
Z.
matters here.
He's another partner
Rather, the
that works
people's
with
intent
Linwood, and
as reflected in
he's
the certified
I forgot
electoral
which part of
college
hacker group
results
he is, but he has a lot
is
of
what
information
matters.
and dirt
Facts
basically.
matter.
Back in
You got talking.
2016.
Sorry, Cody,
Undermining
just a
faith
moment.
in our election
this guy.
process by attempting
Let
to
it play, but
mislead
just
the
mute it.
American public.
All right. Go ahead.
Sorry
Cody.
to so also it's in your chat, so you'll see it. The Code Monkey Z is a very important guy right now. In my personal opinion, I think he's pretty relevant because Linwood has been tagging him a lot for a lot of these bombshells, if you even want to call them that at this point, because who knows? Like
they were really far out
trash
there.
can,
I've
like,
seen some of the stuff this guy put up.
we just need this stuff to either drop or it needs to be done, because like you said, the whole entire country is at such a divide right now.
Well, like
But
I said,
he's
though, I
pretty-
heard that they actually obtained Pelosi's laptop during the siege and have access to her email and so forth. I mean, I don't know how that real
I
that
did not
is,
know
but
That is,
This-
I've heard that going around as well.
yeah, I don't know how real that is.
There was somebody
but-
who
Well-
posted a pic on Twitter at her desk.
Yeah,
so
he
it's
was
hard, and her
lounging.
email is up and everything.
Yeah.
like her email.
He
was
said his
looking at
email-
her
like his
email
laptop
was
and emails were up.
So
Does Seth Rich sound familiar to any of you guys?
Seth Rich. I can't say I know the name.
Okay, so Seth Rich, this is why I was talking about this Code Monkey Z, because he was the one that basically exposed this. I was kind of interested because it just actually dropped last night. But basically, Seth Rich was he was murdered in 2016, I believe, was the time. I'll have to go back through and look at everything. I'll actually share this in your chat as well. But Joseph Rossetti is the man who actually hired 2 MS-13 agents to shake down Seth Rich that night. And Seth Rich had an actual thumb drive on him. Well, the other interesting fact about that is, like, a couple of days later, those MS-13 agents ended up getting, obviously, cleaned. So they ended up as well getting murdered. And so
a couple
it's very
days later,
interesting that
right?
this came out, and it just dropped last night, 19 hours ago is when he basically just posted this. I'll drop it in your chat right now.
Sure. Yeah, I did read a lot about that. Yeah, it's,
Like you said, some bombshells.
the thing is, Linwood just, I mean, it's so hard to, like, because you're literally,
I
when
agree.
you look at all this stuff, this is what it is. When you look at all this stuff, it is very difficult, because some of the stuff, when you look at what Linwood was saying, you're like, there's no, what am I, in some kind of fantasy world?
Right.
He's got to be crazy. But then you look at, like, if you would have asked me today, or even yesterday, hey, how much you want to put on that they're going to, take the Capitol under siege. They're going to get into the Senate and all this stuff. They're
Right.
going to take over the buildings. How much you want to put on it that happens? I'm like, dude, you're bonkers. That will never happen.
Right, like
You know what I mean?
they got
Like,
security
yeah, I'm
and
like, dude, there's no way that will ever happen.
right.
But somehow it happened. You know what I'm saying? So is this stuff that, Linwood and stuff puts out, it's just like when they say things like, oh, we're going to be arresting Pence for treason and all of this stuff. I'm like, huh, really?
Yeah.
Like, really?
Yeah,
seems
it
crazy.
is. Some of it is so far-fetched because you just don't know it. And that's what's crazy, is this whole division with these little crazy, it just seems like ghost stories at this point. Like,
It
it's
does.
so much
It
of
really
just
does.
these random chases that just basically is pulling both parties so far aside. You got the left that's basically believing the whole entire election hasn't had no problems at all. But
Right.
back in 2016, they were screaming, Russia, Russia,
Yeah.
Russia,
Oh,
Russia
absolutely.
collusion, and all of this other thing. And then now you have the right saying, like, almost like what I basically just said today is I have never seen two parties flip so opposite of scripts so hard in my life, that you had
I
the whole
agree.
entire Trump supporters being like, oh no, we're not going to riot, we're not going to do any of this, and
Right.
all the other stuff. And I get that. I respect anybody who's willfully actually doing their First Amendment. That's great. But then it's just like you see today and the events that unfolded,
Mhm.
and what you're seeing is it's so many strings are getting pulled, and you just don't know what to believe in.
It's
anymore,
very
and very
difficult,
unfortunate.
and that's where I said there. What's kind of, maybe this is a comment that can kind of bring us together. in some sense, but it's when I think about it in some aspects, when you see what's going on, because you talk about the flipping of scripts, and we're talking about how you're probably seeing a lot. Everybody on social media right now is probably seeing a lot of attack on the right wing about all the things they said back when the riots and stuff were going on.
Yeah, back in the summer,
Antifa and all this stuff. Like you're seeing a lot of hypocrisy, and some of it I have to throw my hands up. I'm like, damn, they got a point.
Where's the crow? I might as well get lunch.
But the point is that goes to show you that maybe we're not so different as we would think. They were doing the same thing. People over here are upset. It does hypocrisy, sure, but really, when it all boils down to, maybe there's some common ground in there. Hey, that there obviously needs to be some changes, and that's a conversation that I've been willing to, be open to.
Yeah.
But I think there's a lot of things that I'm not open to, So I guess the whole thing is maybe there's not much difference in a lot of the ways that we think in some aspects. I think it boils, obviously we were pissed off. They went up there. They wreaked havoc. Obviously, Antifa or these BLM groups were pissed off. They wreaked havoc. Not that I'm advocating for that. I don't even believe that it's a what do you call it? I don't believe that that's the right way to handle it. I think Cody brought that up earlier.
Yeah,
you want to make your voices heard. You want to go out there. I'm all on board for that.
Right.
I even when the whole Antifa thing was going on, I was like, hey, if they want to go out there and do their thing, go ahead. I didn't have a problem until they started destroying property, burning down things.
Yeah, it was counterproductive.
Right. That is one thing. I mean, not to throw shade, but a lot of what Antifa and BLM, I seen some of these posts out today that was saying, oh, y'all were saying so much about us tearing up stuff, but look at y'all going in and tearing up the government buildings and stuff. If one thing that you wanted to point out to the people that Antifa and BLM and things were doing, they were tearing up a lot of these privately owned businesses,
right? Small businesses,
houses,
right?
You're showing up to people's private residences. This is a government building. If I'm not again, I want to make it very clear, I'm not advocating for this, but if you wanted to make if you wanted to do anything, do it on public building, like something like
well, they were doing some instance, they were attacking like police precincts and stuff in some cities and stuff like that, and but that was more about attacking just cops in general.
Right.
But but you're right though. At least they're taking it to the government official, federal buildings in a sense. It's not just public buildings. They've gone to federal buildings.
The whole thing, because in reality, I don't want it to make it seem like I'm trying to take up for what the actions were today. They were wrong.
They were wrong. You should not have stormed it. You should have stayed
that.
Peaceful outside with your picket fences at minimum.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately it led in 2 people's deaths, and it's no different than every other rally, riot, protest that's ever happened.
Right.
I mean, if there's even any one death or even one American life that's lost, I mean, I think the whole entire purpose of it was it's pointless at this point, because it's just you're just creating anger and division, and that's all you're going to feel is just that.
Right. Well, Cody, you mentioned something earlier on in the show. You mentioned something about a distraction. You said the DC is kind of distracting us from the real issue that's going on in New York, was it?
Yeah, New York. So HR 6666. I know the numbers are very absolutely quite comical. But that's another thing that's really interesting is a lot of these numbers their numbers are starting to play starting to take a very big play in what's going on. But HR 6666 is basically, so I'm going to go over it. I have it both basically pulled up. I'm going to kind of do some highlights and a little bit of stuff, like kind of just summarize it in short if you can. Sure. You could actually still pull this up right now, but this is basically what they're trying to vote and to pass into a law. And now with the Democrats actually leading the Senate, they're not going to have any problems.
Right. And I read up a little bit on this, and I don't disagree with you. Now that, like you said, Democrats are in control of the Senate, it's very passable, and everybody that, I wouldn't even limit it to one group. Everybody should do a little bit of reading into this specific bill, because it affects every single one of us, not left, right, middle, up, down, green, blue, orange. It affects every single human in the United States.
Yep. So I'm going to go over the short title. This I'm just reading this for verbatim. So it says this act may be cited as the COVID-19 Testing, Reaching, and Contacting Everyone Trace Act. Okay, Section 2, COVID-19 Testing and Contact Tracing using Mobile Health Units. Okay, this is where the FEMA camps come into play, right?
Right.
So, in general, the Secretary of Health and Human Services, acting through the Director of the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, may award grants to eligible entities to conduct diagnostic testing for COVID-19 to trace and monitor the contacts of infected individuals and to support the quarantine of such contracts through mobile health units and, as necessary, testing individuals and providing individuals with services related to testing and quarantine at their residence. Permissible uses of funds. A grant recipient under this section may use the grant funds in support of the activities described in this section to hire, train, compensate, and pay the expenses of individuals and to purchase personal protective equipment and other supplies. So, I mean, the PPE is going to be a good thing, which is, that's still what we need.
Right. That's beneficial to everyone.
Yeah, it's huge. It's been a problem since in the very beginning. But we got the ventilators. We have everything that we get to go, but PPE is still good. But I'm going to kind of probably mute this and then kind of read back through a little bit because there's a lot to this, but I highly encourage you guys to look at this. It wouldn't be a bad idea for you, Kev, to actually pull it up and look it up on your actual computer since you have it right next to you, so you can actually follow along with it.
Yeah, and usually
Sure, put the link in the chat there.
Yep,
other people can follow along as well if they'd like.
Yeah. So, and something that I'd like to point out about the HR 6666, I think it's 4 sixes. Yep. But something that I'd like to point out about the specific bill that it specifies is that, that they're basically getting you to sign off on their ability as a government figure to track you and your interactions. I mean, basically every move you make, especially if you've contracted it. And part of this bill also states that any child under the age of 11, they can vaccinate with the COVID vaccine without parent consent or knowledge. They do not have to give any parental notice. They can just do it. And, I personally would go insane over that. Like that would enrage me beyond belief. Like I would go Super Saiyan 4, full-blown Dragon Ball Z out my front yard. I would be so infuriated if this occurred.
The way that I think about that is it's no different than that California bill that they were just basically passing to, actually in my state, if I'm not mistaken, is basically that would allow basically kids at a certain age to discretional get their sex change operation without their parent consent.
Right.
Which is a huge red flag for me. And I'm like, whoa, why was this? And, this is all like that.
Well, some of this stuff isn't so hard to believe, even with them going voting on removing terms like father, mother.
I read that Pelosi pushed that bill forward.
Man and woman.
Yeah. So we're going to, it seems like there's an attack on what you would call the nuclear family in this country, so that's definitely something to be concerned about. We're going to cover that a little bit on Monday.
But but like you said, we'll cover it a little bit. But doesn't that just break down the culture of a society in a sense?
Yeah. So let's talk about these eligible entities here. Back on these HR 6666. So a federally quarantine health center. So a lot of these are going to be pretty, common sense. You should know what is going to be an eligible entity. Okay, a little bit. But a federally qualified health center, as defined in Section 1861 of the Social Security Act, be a a school-based health clinic. So this is where you're talking about, Jamie. This is the other, like the red flag ordeal.
Right.
So that's another huge area. C, a disproportionate share hospital. So I think these share hospitals, are these going to be these little FEMA camps? I'm not too sure if that's what they're going to try to call them. But
no, they'll come up with some fancy PR term to make the public at ease.
They want to change their verbiage so that you're not fearful. But if we all know, like, this is a big no in anybody's eyes, especially if you have kids. You don't want them to be, unwillingly vaccinated, especially without your approval and or consent.
Right.
D is an academic medical center. E is a nonprofit organization, including any such faith-based organization. So that's another huge thing that's, for me, is like, wow. So now they're going to actually be able to take control over some churches and basically anything that's going to be religious, which is, protected in our Constitution. So, an institution of higher education. Not too sure.
Yeah, they're gonna. With that, they're basically stating for you to attend a college, you must be vaccinated. That's what this bill is trying to certify. Wow. So to go in person to college on campus, you must be vaccinated. So that's part of what's adding into that as well. And that's like you said. Like we spoke, what was it, 2 episodes ago, Bleary, about mandated vaccines.
Yes.
And we were stating, we've obviously shared our opinions on that episode, so feel free, to go back and scroll and check it out. But, we were saying how crazy is that thought of it actually being practical? Is it doable? Does it infringe on your rights? How can it infringe if they pass a bill that, gives them the loophole to do it?
Yeah.
I don't necessarily see this passing because it's so crazy, but at the same time,
well, it's sometimes
Democrats
it's not
hold the
even
Senate.
about passing some of this stuff. It's about pushing the envelope as far as they can.
See how far.
So it's like, there's an old saying. You shoot for the moon, you land among the stars. You type of thing. You get what I mean?
You're not wrong, though.
That's how it's kind of, you can almost apply the same thing. You push it so far to where you're hoping, hey, well, we didn't get exactly what we wanted, quote unquote, but hey, we found somewhere. We moved a little bit further or closer to that agenda, whatever that may be.
Right, and like you said, whatever that may be. Now, Cody, do you have any insight on what the agreeing to the objection is on with the Congress here?
On the HR 666.
No, the congressional hearing that's going on right now with the Amendment 25.
I have a little bit of it actually still going up, but I don't have it over.
Okay, so it looks like the Democrats and the Republicans and so forth are actually currently voting on agreeing to the objection motion. It doesn't state what the motion is currently, but I assume that it's
They just rejected Arizona's. So this is why I said this Ron guy's pretty important, because he posted like everything before you even get to see it. So this is really interesting. So I'll go. What he just talked about was, let me pull this up here.
And usually when they're at scenes like this, folks at home, there is no audio really happening when they're counting the votes. It's usually they're reading off like the names of the states, and they are just saying, all right, this person voted yay or nay. So they usually cut the audio feed at this particular moment. They just throw it up as here is the big caption screen.
Now, did you guys see the meltdown that happened at the Pennsylvania Senate yesterday night, if I'm not mistaken, with all the voting of whether or not to object or certify the election results?
No, I actually missed that last night.
That was
the podcast keeps us pretty busy, so we can't catch everything. But we definitely felt the need to cover some of this stuff today.
I encourage you to go look at that, because it was really interesting just seeing what they do. And when I'm air quoting they, because the Democrats, I'm being realistic here. So when they're having this happen, okay, that party and that whole entire Senate, I have never seen a Senate video actually ever get so rowdy. These actual senators were screaming.
It almost looked like a day in Parliament. They throw a shoe across the room.
It was wild. I was like, this is more rowdy than some of the Antifa events that's happening. These are elected officials.
You ain't seen a man in a suit move so fast.
Yeah, so objection to Arizona election results fails in the Senate. So they obviously just got rid of that. So
gotcha.
Arizona is probably going to stay Biden, whatever that means to anybody at this point.
Well, we'll see what it comes to, and I'm sure we're going to continue to follow this hearing today as well, and see what they actually come up with when it comes into the removal or possible impeachment of I guess you could say our current president Donald Trump, because it's not official yet that he is removed, but they have pushed that envelope forward that that is out there. So that is something that they'll look into, and like I said, I do believe it has to be a unanimous vote. So it's not likely he will be removed, but it's not impossible. I mean, they may just say he's got 2 weeks left. Let's finish it out with close monitoring or something, So we'll see what's what. Today has been a lot. I mean,
really
and I'm sorry, to the folks at home, because we're learning as we're going as well, because there's so much developing news right now around everything. You know, there's obvious journalists out there digging for every bit of information. We have Cody with us, thankfully, who has been kind of at home digging for information, you know, finding what he can get as well and helping, you know, piece some of this stuff together with us because like Kevin said earlier, this is so impromptu of a stream here for us. Typically, you know, we don't do live recordings or anything like that, but here we are. And, you know, like I said, I do know we'll closely monitor this. I think we're about finished up with our live stream today. We don't have too many like topics going.
Yeah, is there anything else that you wanted to go over, Cody? Anything else that you didn't get to bring up that you wanted to speak on?
You know, okay, I'll kind of touch a little bit on the basis just because he says, "Oh, here we go."
Yeah.
Oh gosh. So, well, let's talk about the censorship of our president of the United States.
Okay.
Sure.
That is pretty huge, and I think that what we need to understand at what is at play here is you are seeing a huge disconnect right now, and I consider it almost. I don't even know what you would consider this, but this is huge because the president can no longer communicate with his people. And this has all been an act of play for a while. And so it's interesting because the Code Red ordeal that a lot of people don't really know about, but Code Red is the whole entire ordeal. And I'm only going to say that a lot of time because I don't want to repeat it anymore. But Code Red is all meant to actually just, you no longer need to, because his Twitter was literally meant to kind of bring a lot of these things to light. Like we saw his misspellings. We saw how Donald Trump actually acted on Twitter. And Donald Trump, I mean, let's be honest. Even though he's a goon and he does his gaffes, but he was an honest man and he never really tried to steer us wrong or actually lie blatantly to our face. He always tried to actually just, this is what's happening, with the election results and all the other things. And then you have the Georgia guy that was talking about piece of papers, the Dominion machine, saying we need to have forensic audits of all the election, which I think this is what we need. We need this. I mean, go hire that dude. That dude was so obsessed with just one piece of paper. He didn't even, it was crazy. I've never seen some guy talk about paper so much. He should have worked for Dunder Mifflin.
But like you said, though, it's definitely a disconnect. And like you said, entering into that phase, it definitely seems like they were prepping to push the 25th Amendment here and exercise this right. It's like they were already had this discussion, which it was probably whispering. They're like, oh, when I get back in that building, his ass is out of there. Obviously, they were probably discussing some of these things on what they can do to control. So they were already probably pre-planning to initiate, hey, we need to disconnect because if he does get on Twitter and say, hey, they're fixing to remove me, it could cause a bigger scene out in the streets of D.C. So, that is definitely something that we should all closely monitor. We should definitely monitor, what's going on here within the Congress hearing between the House and the representatives here in the congressional hearing here and see what is the outcome. I don't know that they'll actually get an agreement on the amendment this evening. They'll probably reconvene in the morning once again because it is late tonight.
I think so.
And, so we're just going to closely monitor it. So feel free to check our page. Check us on Spotify. Where else are we located on audio only?
Oh, pretty much anywhere you find your podcast. iTunes,
Okay.
Spotify, Anchor, Bullhorn. Pretty much.
We're out there.
Yeah, we're out there.
And then, share some of your thoughts in the comments as well.
Sure, go ahead, Cody. You wanted to add something?
I want to pick your guys' brain. What I didn't understand is I was not expecting the response in DC to be what it was. Why did the Pentagon say, no, we're not sending in the National Guard?
Well, from my understanding, it's weird that you asked. Or did you have something more to add to that? I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off.
I got a little bit more.
All right, go ahead.
We have we have the highest ranking officials and VIPs in one room in the most secure building in our country, right? That's the most secure building supposed to be.
Or at least should be, yeah.
Right. We brag. It was funny because they literally just reconvened the Senate, and that was literally what they're talking about. They're talking about, oh, we got it. This is all of the third world countries are looking at us, and this is the price of promise and hope. And they look at this building, and they see that, and then they saw today, And to me, that seems like there's a lot of actors that are going behind the screens, because if we have National Guard getting activated in Kenosha over just a BLM riot or whatever, and they got activated pretty quickly, but we have the most important building in the United States, and they didn't get activated.
She activated the National Guard yesterday, actually, and the Pentagon did approve more troops as far as the National Guard as well for D.C., but it seemed like they had trouble getting the National Guard there, and which is the craziest thing because it's our nation capital. You would assume there's soldiers everywhere, but they had difficulty, so they sent out the FBI to assist. They sent, I know personally from Virginia, we sent up 200 state troopers to the border of D.C. right at Alexandria and Arlington. So we sent up 200 state troopers up there to kind of help a little bit, just because if it did tread, I know we set a curfew out in that area as well this evening. So other states were also chipping in because it seemed like you said, the National Guard wasn't. What's the word I'm looking for? Their presence wasn't really there, and it could have been more that they geared the limited resources of the Guard that they had towards protecting some of the senators and things like this, so they were like, hey, we have them in a safe house, let's,
Well, they've heard a bunch of different reports about this. I mean, I don't see how we didn't kind of anticipate this a little bit more.
Sure.
Maybe they weren't expecting it to go this route, but they should have been seeing something transpiring, and even if they didn't, they should have been prepared. But I just wanted to get out this point. There's a lot of conflicting reports out there. I mean, I've heard something go far as that the Capitol Police were actually moving barricades out the way to let these people.
Well, I mean,
through.
but I've heard it, and there was one video where a guard was in this door. It was one guard, like one police officer standing in the door, and there's a mob of 50 or more, like it was 100, and he kept having to walk back up and up more flights of stairs because there was so many of them. He couldn't just stand there and risk his life in this sense. But
I think there should have been a little bit more precaution with this whole event. I mean, even with the Trump spoke at the event today, and so
earlier today,
would have a little bit more protections.
So I don't mean to interrupt you, Kevin, but I want to touch right on that because it's really interesting, because you said we should have been more prepared. Well, I don't know if you remember, but a little word through the grapevine. Hey, now Twitter, you're not going to find it, but Donald Trump did post about this. We knew all about this rally. He kind of did plan it, but he also did say that he was going to have a lot of military personnel there to protect the Trump supporters because of such a, all the bad stuff that's been happening to his rallies, his, Rand Paul getting accosted on election night and all
I've seen that
basically
video.
Getting attacked. So that's what gets me is like, why are we having the president of the United States saying he's actually going to basically mobilize more security, more military people to this event when there was nothing? Like, there was just Capitol Police, and then, like you guys said, until Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of DC basically called for all the extra assistance, and it was all officers.
And it was a lot of, like you said, it was all officers, and they had to send in physical, like you said, officers, because there was very little to no presence of the National Guard anywhere. It seemed like they came through later, and they actually got them out of the Senate building and so forth, and they started smoking them out with flashbangs and tear gas and so forth, which I'm amazed some of these people were able to get back inside here to, have this hearing, and amidst all of the chaos today. I mean, I don't know.
Well, they were very adamant about getting to finish this vote out.
Right.
This is something that they were definitely going to have it done one way or the other. But nonetheless, it's getting a little late here in the evening, guys. I'm sorry again. If there's a few of technical issues, we're going to be wrapping up the show here. There's a few technical issues. We may have some skipped frames. Sorry about that. This was an impromptu kind of live conversation we wanted to have.
But the audio version will be out.
Yeah.
Now you guys are saving this, right? This will be saved and put back up.
Yes,
we have an archive.
Backup, so everything is saved. So we'll be able to look back on this, or maybe even re-upload if we need to.
Yes.
So we'll take care of that on our end. But anybody who tuned in, thanks for taking a look at the video. I know it's kind of unexpected. It was kind of the whole. day, I believe you could
Yeah.
say is unexpected.
In the route that it took, you're not
Right,
wrong.
in the route that it took. I expected to hear something about so-and-so, Trump supporters clash with Antifa. Like, that's what the headlines I was thinking, not that we've infiltrated,
Right.
our government buildings. But nonetheless, we're just going to keep a close eye on this. We'll see what happens and what comes out tomorrow. There's still everything's so fresh. Sometimes it's easy to start making assumptions and make.
You're just grabbing for information, and next thing you know, you have this booklet.
Oh, let me go get my aluminum foil.
Yeah, tinfoil hats, boys.
Tinfoil hats on. Well, Cody, I definitely want to say thank you to you, sir, for coming in, just chiming in. It was nice for you to call into the show and kind of have a little bit of a dialogue and hear what you're thinking on your end over there on the opposite side of the country. So thank you a lot for calling in and participating in this evening's episode. Really appreciate that.
I'm so sorry. I thank you so much for having me. I just want to say one other thing too. Well, were you guys did you guys see anything else that was happening as far as like any other capitals or anything like that? So I'll just kind of touch a little bit because I'm all the way in the other Washington, but it was really interesting because our governor is very, very dictator, very left. We're still closed down, actually.
Right.
And we're not even opened up until I think like the 22nd. I don't even know what he's extending it to. It's probably just indefinitely at this point.
Just screw it. This is the new norm.
His private mansion basically got stormed, and his whole entire basically residence got overran as well. And it wasn't just
like
like
a page out of Pelosi and
there was a
book.
huge uproar everywhere in the nation, and a lot of places, and especially like Sacramento was really huge too. So look into a little bit of that.
Yeah, we'll have to take a look at that, see if we can bring it up on some of Monday's show. In the meantime, is there anything that you want to plug, any social media, anybody where they can follow you? You want to give out your Twitter handle or something like that?
Let's I'll pop it in on the Parlor, and I use Parlor a little bit more frequently since Twitter is really actually now basically just really censored a lot. Let me go pull up, because this is all news to me. I mean, I wasn't even thinking censorship was.
Well, you can definitely share it in the chat, and Cody, and I believe we can pull it and throw it in the description as well, your handle as well, and
perfect.
Or you can just send it to me directly, via message, and we'll get it and link it up.
If you get it pulled up, we'll definitely go ahead and let you plug that. Definitely, if anybody wants to follow you, that would be great. But nonetheless, that's pretty much going to wrap up tonight's show as we're closing in 11 p.m. over here on the East Coast. Hopefully, it seems like everything's kind of winding down for the evening, so we're going to see what transpires, what comes of this for tomorrow. Again, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. We're really pushing hard to get to those 100 subs. A lot of people say, Kevin, why are you so focused on the 100 subs? Well, we're looking to get a custom URL link. When you reach that 100 sub mark, you get a custom URL link through YouTube. So that's something that I wanted to get to. Please subscribe. That means a lot to us here on the K2 Podcast. If you need anything, you can always reach us at k2podcast@yahoo.com. You can follow me on Twitter at KevinKirbyK2 and also on Instagram at KevinKirbyK2. Any other things that you guys need, reach out. Again, thank you for tuning in this evening. Remember to like this video. You can subscribe to our channel. It's greatly meaning a lot. We'll see you guys on Monday. That'll be this Monday. I'm not 100% sure on the time, but it will be Monday. We're expecting around 7 to 8 p.m. It'll be a pre-recorded episode, so it may get up around 9, 10 at night. We'll see exactly how it plays
Sounds about
out.
accurate.
But it could be a little earlier, a little later. But definitely on Monday, we'll have a new episode of the K2 Podcast out. So thanks in for checking out tonight's broadcast. You guys have a great night, and thanks so much for tuning in. Cody, thanks for being on the show, and Jay, catch you on the flip side.
As always.
Hey, thanks guys.